Now, officers Kerry Rose and Brian Strouser were given the suspensions and will both be retrained on proper techniques. Grove City Police say neither of the officers has a history of similar disciplinary events. And in a statement, they add this violation was significant. We requested those officers' personnel files. And I can tell you, Rose started with the department in 2002. She had worked for Logan Police Department before that and had been fired. But while with Grove City, she earned commendations for teamwork and excellence. Now officers...
Yeah, that's right. In a whopping $20 million claim, Otter says that the Seattle Police Department leaked some of his personal information, severely damaging his reputation. He also points to his role in the union and says that he believes that his leadership role there was in part one of the reasons for his termination.
She was 26 anyway. She had limited value.
It's the police body camera footage that sparked national outrage.
Yep.
Daniel Otterer, a now former Seattle police officer, allegedly mocking the death of 23-year-old John V. Kandula.
Yeah, just write a check. Just, yeah, $11,000.
Kandula was hit by another Seattle officer in a South Lake Union crosswalk in 2023.
But she is dead.
In a new tort claim filed against the city of Seattle, Otterer claims SPD leaked personal information, including his home address. The claim alleges SPD then wrongfully terminated me. This was retaliatory, at least, due to my union leadership. Otterer also points to his personal reputation harm and mental pain and suffering.
Good morning, and welcome to the Bad Apple Report. It's 7:30 a.m., bright and early right here at home on the range. Thank you so much for being here today, folks. I really appreciate it. We have a bunch of bad apples to get to, so without further ado, let's get on with the show.
It is not wrong for a Dominican person to go and celebrate their proud heritage.
Vargas said it all started when a police officer from the 44th precinct asked him and his friends to move from a certain part of the street. He says they complied, but that's when the situation escalated.
From that point on, I seen the look in his eyes, and he just kept on going, and I heard him say something, get him, and then from that point on, I just seen people grabbing my head and started punching me.
Vargas was surrounded with officers on top of him as they worked to arrest him as people flooded the streets on 166th Street and River Avenue.
He was attacked, punched in his head 13 times, and suffered a concussion.
The NYPD tells CBS News New York Vargas refused lawful orders from officers to disperse and was charged with resisting arrest, obstructing government administrations, and disorderly conduct. It is unclear if the officers involved are being investigated for excessive use of force, but police say they're not commenting further at this time.
Duty CPD officers are at the Home Depot, and they are targeting people based on their perceived race, ethnicity, and national origin. And they're taking them from a public place and taking them inside of a store and beating them and using excessive force against them, violating their rights.
The lawsuit details 5 separate incidents beginning in October of last year where they say recent South American migrants have been arrested and charged with criminal trespass after being detained and beaten by security guards hired by Home Depot, while day laborers of other ethnicities are left alone. Venezuelan William Jimenez is one of the 5 plaintiffs named. I was punched in the face, in the chest, all because I was looking for work, says Jimenez in Spanish. Colombian Betuel Castro is also suing. He says he was punched in the face by a Home Depot security guard this past May. He was also later arrested and charged with criminal trespass. He told me, "You Venezuelans are ruining this country." I told him I was Colombian, but he kept insisting I was Venezuelan and kept hitting me.
Off-duty CPD.
Ricky was unarmed. The officer was safely within his vehicle, and he shot from the vehicle into a boy with no weapon in his hands.
New here at 9, a family demanding answers after they say their teenage son was gunned down by an LAPD sergeant.
Their son was really at the threshold of a whole new life. He graduated from high school. He'd managed to get through school in a way that was placing him for success in the future. And instead, he got dragged through death's door by this officer who shot him in the chest. So it is unfathomable that there's a life just at the beginning of its future that was snuffed out by just rash action by a police officer.
Person was 18-year-old Ricky Ramirez. This is video, or a picture rather, from his funeral service that happened over the weekend. Family members, the attorney for Ricky Ramirez's family, says he was in a car with a group of people in South LA when Vice units came up to them and started following them in the car that they were in. Ricky, along with one other person, got out of the car to ask the driver of the other car what was going on. The attorney says that's when one single bullet went through the rolled up window and into Ricky's chest, killing him. It was later determined that that person was an LAPD sergeant who was working an undercover prostitution operation, according to the LAPD. The LAPD alleges that the group was wearing masks. That's something the attorney says was not true. Now, it should be noted that the Vice unit that was doing this undercover operation were in plain clothes. They were not in a marked police car at all. And the way that they fired, according to the attorney, is something that you would see by a criminal. They say that's why the other person got in the car and took off. It should also be noted that since these are undercover Vice units, it is very unlikely that there was any body camera footage or any dash camera footage. Typically, those undercover units don't wear those or have those equipped in their cars. LAPD will have to put out a critical incident briefing on this within 45 days of the shooting. So far, that has not been put out. Pat and Juan, I also want to point out the California Department of Justice has taken over this case because Ricky was unarmed at the time he was killed.
Are drones an effective tool in police work? The answer for San Francisco police is a resounding yes. It's a tool that they've only recently had access to. ABC 7 News reporter Luz Pena was there today when police announced some recent arrests. Luz, using drones.
That's right, Dan. SFPD has 6 drones and 10 police officers certified to fly them. So far, the program is costing the city $35,000, and the plan is to expand it. Today, San Francisco Police Chief Bill Scott said the cost and resources have been worth the investment. They are the new eyes in the sky San Francisco police officers are using. From crime scenes and minutes later, leading officers directly to an arrest.
Drones have already assisted SFPD in numerous cases, including a sexual assault suspect that was arrested, several auto burglary suspects that were arrested.
Earlier this year, San Francisco voters approved Mayor Breed's Proposition E, allowing for the use of surveillance cameras and drones to pursue suspects. Now their first data points are out. Police say these drones are working, confirming the arrest of several suspects' drones caught.
We have a sense of urgency to make this a safe city and to do the things that the people in the city deserve.
San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins said these videos were key to prosecute these suspects.
As a result of that arrest and that footage, we were able to file auto burglary charges on individuals who, quite frankly, 2 of them are repeat offenders of crime.
So far, SFPD only deploys the drones after receiving intel of a potential crime in progress. But the plan is to expand the use of drones in problematic areas around the city.
To get the resources and equipment to the area that's being impacted by crime and deploy from areas that are impacted. That's certainly one of the strategies.
The use of drones by law enforcement is concerning. For the Electronic Frontier Foundation,
is disturbing that SFPD hasn't publicly released its policy related to the drones. There is currently a California state law, AB 481, that is meant to dictate transparency.
Chief Scott said they're following the law.
We don't believe we're violating state law at all. As a matter of fact, we believe we're in compliance with state law.
Mayor Breed is now promising to expand the program.
When you cross those lines here in San Francisco, there will be consequences.
And regarding issues of privacy, SFPD tells us they are only storing videos of crimes and keeping them as evidence until the cases are prosecuted. Chief Bill Scott said any other videos are deleted within 30 days.
All of these men died after Phoenix police tried to secure them in a hog-tie position or left them face down in restraints.
Why are you doing this?
Muhammad Muhaimin in 2017.
He's not breathing.
Casey Wells in 2019.
You guys are doing this.
And Ramon Lopez in 2020. Phoenix police policy then and now allows this kind of restraint, but it says officers will minimize face-down exposure of the prisoner in these restraints, and they should place the prisoner in an upright position on their side or back.
That's really police work 101. Every officer I know knows that that's what you do.
All 3 families sued Phoenix police. The city settled the Muhaimin case for $5 million and the Wells case for $650,000. The Lopez case is pending.
There's nobody that we know of who's been retrained, who's been reprimanded,
who even has a note in their file about this.
The DOJ report details even more cases. In one, a man lost consciousness and 6 officers did not act when the man's breathing became labored. In another incident, the DOJ describes a man hogtied in a manner explicitly prohibited by policy. He complained he couldn't breathe and began to vomit. "Stop being a baby," one officer said. The DOJ report says despite the serious risk of harm, Phoenix Police does not require supervisory review of the use of the hobble. And the feds recommend Phoenix PD implement force reporting and review systems to ensure that officers report all uses of force, including neck and leg restraints, and that Phoenix conducts timely, thorough force reviews.
Take a look at these images. They're the front and back of a special coin that officers had to celebrate shooting a man in the groin during a protest in 2017. ABC 15 investigator Dave Biscabing not only getting pictures of that coin, he also discovered the chief knew about it and no one was disciplined or even investigated.
That coin is a major part of the DOJ's investigation. It's pictured on page 116, and it was highlighted during a press conference about the findings.
Officers circulated a challenge coin.
Here's what the DOJ wrote. For example, following a 2017 protest at which officers unloaded canisters of tear gas on peaceful protesters, Phoenix PD officers circulated a challenge coin, a memento normally used to commemorate moments of valor and pride during service. This challenge coin instead depicted a protester whom an officer shot in the groin with a 40mm impact round. We interviewed that protester about what happened.
It was a woman who had just stepped barely off the sidewalk into the street, just saw that she was down, so me and a couple other people ran up, picked her up off the ground. As me and this other lady grabbed her and ran with her, we got shot in the back. I was pretty frustrated that I just got shot in the back while helping someone, and that's what provoked me to kick a tear gas canister back at them.
Our reporting showed at least 30 officers had a coin, and then we learned there was more. Quote, when supervisors learned that a box full of the coins and related memorabilia had been found at a Phoenix PD precinct, they decided to throw away all evidence of the coin and created no record of what had happened.
They were owned, shared, and sold by Phoenix police officers celebrating shooting a protester in the groin. And on it, language mimicking hate speech.
These coins have been passed around for years, but Phoenix PD and Chief Jerry Williams did nothing about it until we exposed the coin for the world to see.
The DOJ adding, more than 3 years later, local news reported on the coin, connecting the coin's Goodnight Left slogan and imagery to hate speech. Immediately, Phoenix PD issued a public statement denying that the department sanctioned the coin.
Phoenix showed the image and video of the shot to recruits at the police academy.
What, they showed it?
Yes, so they showed the image, they showed the video of the actual shot, and they showed the officer who made the shot actually came in and introduced himself and was introduced.
5 years after the challenge coin's initial appearance, Phoenix PD has continued to celebrate the incident in training, with Justice Department investigators observing. An instructor in a 2022 training described the incident as a textbook shot into the lower abdomen. The instructor then boasted that Phoenix PD executed search warrants on the protester's home and workplace, causing him to become jobless and homeless at the same damn time. The DOJ also wrote, in a prior version of the training class we reviewed, the instructor showed news footage of the same incident, set to Whitney Houston's rendition of I Will Always Love You. The clip was timed to emphasize the moment of the groin shot, with a loud drum hit just before the song's chorus. We also uncovered the officer who fired that shot was on the Brady list. We got records showing 2 fellow officers reported him for choking a handcuffed man, and he was criminally charged. But those charges were later dropped. Now, that officer is also involved in another part of the DOJ's report. We're covering that in another part of this series. And a final note about the coin. When we first exposed all of this several years ago, Phoenix claimed that they had done a, quote, review and found no misconduct. But here's what the DOJ wrote about that. When asked to clarify the scope of Phoenix PD's claimed review of the challenge coin, 2 Phoenix commanders declined to speak about the topic.
In a community meeting on Monday, residents called for the sheriff to resign.
Coming out here and saying you won't resign before you heard from anybody in the community is not acting in good faith.
Grayson also pleaded guilty twice to driving under the influence of alcohol in 2015 and 16.
Did that raise any red flags?
No, it's not a red flag.
When he hired Deputy Sean Grayson in May of last year, he received twice as much training as other new deputies.
Massey died after being shot in the face after calling 911 when she thought she saw a prowler outside her home.
He had all the training he needed, he just didn't use it.
So how did he slip through the cracks like that?
I don't know.
Now Grayson is being held in a local jail after being charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder for killing Sonia Massey on July 6th. CBS News has learned that Grayson had a history of disciplinary issues at other law enforcement agencies, including allegations he put false information in his police reports and once disobeyed a command to end a high-speed chase. Are you disappointed that you didn't receive that?
I would have rather had it, yes.
Would it have changed your decision to hire him?
I can't speculate. I don't think there's much we could have done better.
But the biggest failure is not being honest with the community and not shooting straight and not telling them exactly like it is. And people understand the truth. What they don't understand is obfuscating, lying, standing up in front of the media after somebody has just shot at President Trump 2 or 3 days later and go, oh, I really don't know about that. We've got that under investigation. The whole world's throwing the BS flag on that. You know something you could tell us.
It's true. They couldn't have done it any better by their standards. That sheriff there at the front who hired Grayson, even though he worked with him and he knew that he was too dumb to, and he had to have extra training and all that stuff, and he had the killer tattoos, and they saw that every day, but just couldn't figure out what would go wrong. And then Sheriff Grady Judd there, you got to admit, he's onto something there. We are onto them. We can tell that they're a bunch of liars, and including him. That's right, Grady, if you're watching. So Grady hires the same kind of guys, and then so surprised later when I got to do a report on these men and women that have worked so hard. No, they don't. If you can't tell that they're criminals when you hire them, well, it's probably because you're a damn criminal, Sheriff. Okay, one last bad apple to get to, and we're off, and we're done with the show.
WI scandal at APD costing 2 more jobs today. An officer on military leave since October has resigned as Internal Affairs worked to schedule an interview. And a commander has been terminated following a 3rd investigation that started as a result of the DWI investigation.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for being here this morning to watch the Bad Apple Report right here at home on the range. And as you know, yes, you do. It's true. I'm going to whip up another batch of bad apples just for you. And we'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. bright and early. Have a great day, folks.